welcome everybody to UFO ET Experiencers. And I'm so happy that you're all with us tonight. Tonight we have a wonderful guest who I had the pleasure of meeting in 2019 in Chihuahua, Washington. And her name is Kelly Rainbow Butterfly. And the way I met Kelly is that I had some Sasquatch experiences myself, and I happened to see her on Facebook, and I saw that she was having these family reunions for people that were very interested in Sasquatch or had had some connection to the Sasquatch beings. So I went out there in 2019 and I had a wonderful time. It was a 3 or 4 day event. And it was absolutely fantastic. So Kelly is an author, a speaker, and she does all kinds of different types of work. And I will let her explain it all because there's a lot that Kelly does. She's also a channel for the Sasquatch people. And just so excited to have her here. And she's going to share her story with us. And I just want to welcome you, Kelly. And let me just bring you in.
Right. And thank you. I'm so honored to be here, and thank you for inviting me here to share my story. Wow. Yeah, you did a great introduction. I'm trying to think of where to actually begin. So
how about where this all opened up for you? Like, how did you when you think about your past or your early years, were there things that maybe prepared you for this kind of connection? Just wherever you feel like you want to start with that,
Sure. Yeah. And no, I really wasn't prepared for that connection. but in childhood, no, I definitely was sensitive to other realms and things like that. I really loved, just absolutely love, and still do, just spending time in nature. I feel a oneness with nature. So the more time I spend, even just, sitting on the lawn or sitting under a tree, that's really always been my preference of where I want to spend my time. And so, I feel that I must have been really in tune with a lot of this without even, knowing or understanding. But also, like I said, I was sensitive to spirits and things like that. I felt that I could commune with nature and with animals, especially cats. I'm definitely a cat person, and so I felt like we can communicate really well. I know exactly what they're saying, and they know what I'm saying, and all of that. So that's just a little bit of the I guess the preparedness that I had. But I was also, like I said, sensitive to spirits, and so departed humans. And so when I was younger, I didn't really quite understand it, and it was something I didn't really want to be too much a part of, because when you're young, you know it as ghosts and things like that, which has this scary undertone, and I didn't really understand it. And I don't want to say that it's not a gift that I wanted. I just didn't understand it enough. And I knew that others wouldn't really either. And so it's something I kind of turned off for a little while, disconnected from, because it was too much for me to try to function in life with, this alternative reality that I was living. And but as I became a young adult, a lot of that started coming back to me. In my early 20s, I started to feel the spirits around me again. And by the time I grew up in South Florida, and I moved to the Ozarks in Arkansas when I was, let me see, about 24 years old. And so I was there for 10 years, and a lot opened up for me there, especially because I was immersing myself in nature once again, going on hikes, and discovered these incredible, amazing things, with friends. There was megaliths out there in the forest and everything like that. So I felt a real deep connection with the ancestors. And I also was having experiences with the Sasquatch that I couldn't really understand that that's what was happening. Um, so as well as, feeling the guidance of ancestors. And then, so it's really been kind of a transition through time, of understanding what things were. Like I said, initially it started off kind of scary, but then I came to understand exactly who may be communicating with me and for what purpose. So it was really a whole evolution for me to come into that understanding of everything that was happening. And I still don't know it all, I mean, still many times I feel a contact and I'm just like, well, who was that, but I came to better understand what kind of beings were communicating with me, whether they be human or Sasquatch. Um, but while I was having physical encounters in the forest in Arkansas, it would be really subtle things like pine cones being thrown my direction, and it was obvious that it wasn't dropping, falling from a tree, that it was actually being thrown, but it wasn't with the intent to hit me either. I could tell it was being thrown to the side of me. So it was like, well, what is this? And then, walking around, I'd hear large bipedal footsteps behind me and there's nothing there, so it was just kind of like, okay, I have a feeling that this must be the Sasquatch, but I don't understand, why can't I see them, um and so I guess I should fast forward probably to 2012 then. It was actually December 12th, 2012, that things really started opening up and blossoming for me. It all really started with a dream. And I had a dream that I was asked to follow somebody into a cave. But it was so real, and without any hesitation, I just followed this person into this dark cave. And it was, really bizarre for me when I woke up, just like, well, that's not something that I would actually do, and I woke up, I never really saw what was in the cave, but I knew that this dream was like some kind of an initiation into something. And then 2 days later is when actually everything really changed for me. And everything, I guess you could call it a quickening if you want, because that's everything just absolutely exploded for me, spiritually and psychically. And so on December 14th, I went to bed that evening around 11 o'clock. Yeah, so this evening I went to bed. My ex and his son were still in the living room awake. They were watching a movie or playing video games or something. So I was going to bed by myself, and I got into bed, and immediately, as soon as I did, so I'm fully conscious. I knew that this wasn't a dream, but it was also dreamlike, that, it took me some time to figure out what had really happened here. But I laid down in bed, and as soon as I did, I felt stuck to the bed, like I wasn't really able to move. And it simultaneously, at the same time, there was a big light outside. I had sliding glass doors to the bedroom. And there was curtains, but I could see that there was a huge light, shining through, and I could hear a machine, what sounded like, I'm assuming it's a UFO, and of course, well, it was, so it was this machine whirring kind of sound, and I wanted to get up to see what was going on, and I couldn't get out of the bed, and I'm just like, what's going on? Everything's fine with me, but I could not lift my head, I couldn't lift my arms. It was really strange, and so I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to have to sit here and accept, whatever's happening. And then I'm wondering, well, am I asleep then? Am I dreaming? And but I also watched, because this is humming and whirring so much. It was actually rattling the windows, and it rattled a picture frame that was on top of the TV that was in there, and it fell right to the floor. And so I was like, okay, well, that's right there is my physical evidence that this is not my imagination. It just caused something to fall on the floor that's never fallen on the floor for any reason. um so I'm not able to move, but at the same time I'm feeling this peace and this calm, at the same time that I'm feeling sensations of, almost panic, like what's going on here. And it came into my awareness that there are two beings in the room with me, uh, and one introduced himself. His mouth wasn't like moving or anything. It was all telepathic, and he looked rather human to me, so I could see him. And he looked human, but his head was a little bit larger, or just different than a human, but still has all this, same kind of features as a human. He was dressed and clothed, like we would, except it was stranger kind of clothing too. I guess, what you might think of as spaceman clothing. And it was actually he looked more like a doctor. That's the impression that I got. And he introduced himself and said that his name was Jai. And when I get names, I also see the name, and so I saw the spelling of it was Jai, or that's, how it came through at the time. And he's telling me that, this is okay. This is kind of a moment that I've been waiting for, and that they've been waiting for, and that this, they're here to help me for my highest good, and this is going to, help me on my journey. All these, different reassuring things that I'm feeling, but it's also kind of like, oh, okay, well, but where'd you come from, and why am I stuck to the bed, so it was just an unbelievable thought process of everything happening at the time. But then at the end of the bed, I saw a Sasquatch, and it just had this most calming energy. And this was also confusing to me because it felt feminine. It felt like a woman. It felt like my grandmother, sitting there kind of holding my hand and saying, everything's going to be okay, honey, that kind of thing. But at the same time, it was a Sasquatch. And to me, it just looked like a male presence, so that's really when everything began with this entire episode. And the Sasquatch didn't say anything to me the way that Jai spoke to me. But I did feel this overwhelming love and comfort and assurance and everything from the Sasquatch woman. And then I should also add to what I went through physically. So I feel calm, and then I started feeling some pain, and I started to feel them in my ovaries. Jai, the doctor, was doing something, not with his physical hands. It was energetic. Oops, I'm sorry. I should have put my phone on mute. um, anyway, there was this energetic surgery going on, and I could feel this in my ovaries. And so I was like, aha, okay, I've read about this, I've heard about this, where they're extracting eggs or DNA and things like that. So then I had this better understanding of, okay, now I see what they're doing, or even if I didn't understand the whole picture, I figured, well, I'm a part of the hybrid program, and this is something that I agreed to be a part of, and so a lot of that comfort and awareness came to me during all this. And I should say that this was probably only like maybe 2 minutes. I don't know, but I don't even know, it felt like it could have been at least 20 minutes. But it was most likely probably about 3 minutes or something. But it was long enough to have all these experiences. And
Can I ask a question?
so yes.
At that point, you said you are part of you knew you were part of the hybrid program. Now,
Uh-huh.
was that an awareness that you had at that moment, or was it something you were aware with aware of from the past, that like something happened that made you aware of that?
it was something that I came aware of in the moment, but I had read about it before and I was very interested, and I felt some kind of pull or some kind of draw or some kind of connection somehow, that I couldn't really explain, but I was very interested and wanted to know more about the subject, you know? And so while this was happening, it was, aha, okay, well, I guess I'm going to know more about the subject now, aren't I?
Okay.
So yeah, and so also, you know, in hindsight now, I've learned so much more since then. Um, so I swear I just muted that, but I just heard another ding. Sorry. And so I'm feeling this pain, and then all of a sudden everything just kind of stops. They disconnect. You know, I felt this energetic, okay, we're done, and it was really simple, and it wasn't any big grand exit or anything. It was just done. And so I was able to finally move, and I got up out of bed, and I first of all looked at the photo on the floor, the picture frame on the floor, and I'm like, okay, this is real. This really happened. And I look outside, and there's nothing, you know, there's no great big ship and there's no light. But right at that moment, two Black Ops helicopters flew right overhead, and it was so loud and like huge and obvious. And so I went into the living room, and asked my partner at the time and his son. I was like, did you guys experience any of that? Like, what's going on? What just happened?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, we just heard those helicopters fly by." And I was like, "Well, what about before that? Like, did you see the big light, and did you hear the UFO and all, you know, all this stuff?" And they're like, "What are you talking about? These two helicopters just flew overhead, and you know, there was nothing before that." And I was just like, "Oh, okay. Good night." So, you know, but also I was still feeling this pain too, and so I knew I just needed to lay down, and you know, rest, just kind of be done with it. It felt like my body was kind of fighting to stay away, and when it was just this obvious, like, no, you need to lay down now and integrate all of this. And
Mhm.
so I did. I went to bed, and I slept just fine, and I woke up, you know, thinking, well, was that, nope, that was not a dream. All of that happened. I left the frame on the floor so that I would have that evidence for myself. And there it was on the floor. So I was like, okay, so that wasn't a dream. And the next day, you know, after that, I guess I would just say from that moment forward, everything had changed. And I started like researching more about, well, ET experiences and the hybrid program, you know, more than what I had just initially read before. But it was really the Sasquatch connection also really started with all of that too. So it was a conjunction of a big introduction to both sides of all of this. It's not even sides, but you know, two different realities that was just kind of something I had an interest in, and then I'm just in the middle of it. So it changed so much for me. I spent more time in the woods, and I started like really openly communicating with the Sasquatch after that, psychically. But also, you know, in the woods, like I said, I'd go out into nature, and connect with them, but also many of the different nature spirits, and I would feel guidance from them. A lot of personal guidance, you know, for you know, your own emotional healing, all kinds of, you know, wisdom for how to move forward on my path of healing and love and peace, which is really my goal and my aim. And they recognize that, and they kept telling me that that's something that they really appreciate, and you know, just kind of how to move forward on that path, using the guidance and the tools that I have, and with nature. You know, I started learning more about the plants and everything, the plant medicines, things like that. Um, so, and then I was receiving so many messages. I started really documenting them, and at times they would even tell me, "Well, hey, you know, bring your notebook, grab the notebook and pen. you're going to want to write this down. So I did. And you know what? So much of what I wrote at that time still hasn't actually been published. The Sasquatch Message to Humanity has been, which really summarizes all of it. But I still have quite a bit more of my story to get out there and to publish. But so it's just really been an amazing journey with the guidance from the Sasquatch for everything that I'm doing now, living in Washington State. And they are very much here physically, as well as in every kind of realm, but their presence here and the energy here and the acceptance of them here is really amazing. And so I'm grateful to be here and to continue to get this kind of guidance. And we're been hosting these the Sasquatch family reunion. This was the 8th year this year. And now I'm also getting more involved with permaculture and helping to organize gatherings of that nature, so that it's not just more focused on Sasquatch and our star ancestors and um, you know energy work and healing and grid work and all of these things that people might call woo woo, right? Well, yeah, I love the woo. So yeah, we're going to continue to do that, but with some of the people that aren't so woo, that really love and appreciate the earth, we're having some other gatherings that's really a lot of hands-on learning about how to be great stewards, for our planet, and how to take care of ourselves and our communities and all of that. So it's really growing and expanding as far as bringing people together, like-minded people to learn and to celebrate life, you know. And I should add too that a year after this incident, on December 14th. So I, of course, remembered that date because it was so life-changing for me. So a
Where
year
was
to
that?
that,
What year was that?
2012.
Okay.
So, yeah, the big year that the year the world was supposed to end, right? So, and for me, a new world began for me at that time anyway. So, but so a year to that date, I was sitting in meditation and ceremony because I wanted to honor that special time. And so many different beings came to me during that meditation, and and Jai and many beings. So the Suni, I never said that Suni was the female Sasquatch that was there, that I was confused if it was a male to begin with. So so she up and really started to begin to communicate with me after that, as well as the introduction to my guide, George. So he was there. And there were many other beings from different star systems, and some that I could probably put a name to, like a blue avian. And there were other beings that I just could not ever tell you what they are, that some were strange looking. And but I learned that they said it's been a year since we healed you of cervical cancer. And I was just like, I had no idea. I didn't have any diagnose. I didn't have anything like that. And maybe, yeah. So I don't know at what stage, but for them to use those words was just amazing and blessed. I just started crying. I think
Oh,
this is probably the first time I've even mentioned that without crying, just because it's
total
so special to me. Um, and so there was also the DNA involvement with all of that, but I had no idea at the time until a year later that there was also a major healing going on.
wow.
Yeah,
Wow. When you said that, I had like total goosebumps, chills going down my arms. So
yeah,
yeah, I love that they do these kind of healings with us, it's just they're so incredible, so loving, and they really want to help us, they really want to help
yes,
to live our best lives here. And it's just wonderful that they healed you in that way.
yes. Thank you. Bless. I really feel that, and I continue to feel that healing and that guidance on how to self-heal basically, and whether that be with herbs. I've learned a lot about, herbs and natural medicine and plant medicines and energy and all kinds of different things. So a lot of that is things that I feel blessed to be able to explore and to share with others. I'm actually giving a workshop here this weekend talking about some different healing energy tools. And so, a lot of it's well, energetic, 'cause some of them are through, like, the devices, like the iTerra, Care, the wand, and I have a galvanic bath that we offer sessions with, and, I do Reiki and things like that. So, anyway, it's many different things. I make orgonite too, and that's, also those are, like, really great devices, and, learning and sharing more about crystals for people and how that can benefit, and all these, wonderful things. So I just feel so blessed that I have the opportunities to share that with others so that they can help themselves too, help themselves to heal, and just to better understand themselves, and to um, remember. I just separate that into two words because it is to remembering and unlearning a lot of things that we've been conditioned, to believe. And so I really feel the guidance of all of these beings helping me to, have that awareness and that clarity. So yeah.
That's awesome. That's great. So what year did you move from the Ozarks to Washington State?
In 2014, September 2014. Yeah. So yeah, I was in the Ozarks for 10 years, and I've been here now almost 9 years.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah.
Very- This is your 8th year of the conference that you do yearly, and now you're adding on to those conferences you were saying
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. And the conference has gone through quite the transition as well. When it was initially started, we were calling it the Psychic Sasquatch Spiritual Retreat, and actually it started off as a conference, and then we realized that people were coming from, like, all over the world, and they wanted to spend more time there. So it was like, oh, okay, we'll turn this into a longer event, have a camp out, in that facility. The Chewila Peak Learning Center was just perfect. And that's a whole other story in itself. The Sasquatch led me there on a map, asked where should I go, and they, with a pendulum, pointed on a map, well, this area, and I didn't know what was there, but we're driving up there, and I see Chewila Peak Learning Center, the sign for it, and I was like, let's see what that is. I want to go check that out. And I saw this place. This is before I actually even moved to Washington. I visited Washington um, with the intent of moving. So we're, looking for a place to move to. Um, and then I discovered the Chewila Peak Learning Center, and it was all closed up. Nobody was there, but I'm peeking in the windows and I'm looking around, and I saw a vision of myself walking around in there with a clipboard. And I was like, whoa. And I told my partner at the time, I said, I think I'm going to be working here one day. I don't even know what this place is, but I think I might be working here one day. And so, and then I go around the side of the building and I look up in the woods, and there were 3 Sasquatch up there, physical. I could see them, and they were like, hey, we're glad you're here. It's like, oh my God. Okay. Well then, and then we moved to Chewila, like that did it for us. So yeah, moved to Chewila after that. I didn't even know that we'd be having these gatherings, but a lot of that was really inspired with meeting Sunbow, and working with him in the um, getting out the Sasquatch message to humanity. So the first gathering coincided with the first book being published, and then the second book was the next year, and the third book was the following year. And so those are the years, that we had it at Chewila Peak as well. Um, so it's just really been incredible. Like I said, that was the start of the journey, and And then receiving those messages, well, Sunbow received the messages in the first two books. And then the third book I wrote, I believe it's the first 12 chapters of channeled messages, and some are from Camus and some are from other beings that introduced themselves to me in this area, or through other, experiences, and things like that. So yeah, it's really been an incredible journey, and I haven't been documenting as much. I feel this little pull, like the Sasquatch, they have messages for me, but I'm not writing them down like I should, or not spending as much time at the computer and things like that. But I'm also reassured that when the time is right, that will happen, because now I'm just living it right now and having these experiences, and I'm having all these opportunities to share, and to teach, and lots of community, and I mean, just lots of spending time in the garden. That's where that's where you can really learn. That's, what I really love doing. And so that's where I'm called to right now. But I know that there's going to be more publications on the way, and lots more opportunities to share everything. So
Yeah, well, it's so exciting. And where are you having your reunions now? I know you changed locations.
we did, yes. So now we're having them in Kettle Falls,
Mhm.
which is in Washington, which is less than an hour from Chewelah Peak.
Oh, okay.
It's the same county,
Mm.
actually. Yeah, so Chewelah Peak, they closed down with COVID and things like that, because they couldn't have gatherings, and there was other reasons, but ultimately, that's why it closed. But now it's being utilized by fire department as training, and there's people that they're on site, with all the bunks and the dorms that they had and everything. And they're taking wonderful care of the forest around there. So it's really being put to good use, and it can still be visited. We still visit there and hike and stuff, just can't use, the buildings that we were using.
Yeah.
But yeah, we still love to go and visit, and there's still, Sasquatch structures there. There's still more being built. And this year at our gathering, we had a workshop where we all co-created a plasterite cloud buster. It's like organite, but with plaster. It's less messy, and it's easier for a workshop. So a plasterite cloud buster, and several people brought it up to Chewelah Peak and put it over there. So yeah, so that's nice. We're still, holding ceremony and honoring that space. And where we're having it now in Kettle Falls is by the Columbia River, Lake Roosevelt, and where we had it this year and where we're having it next year, because we've played around with a few locations to be sure. Um, it all really started accidentally, because when during COVID, everything was totally shut down, and everything was trying to shut down the gathering, and I was just like, no, it's not happening. I'm a stubborn Taurus. We're making this happen. So and my partner Christian says, hey, we've never actually checked out the marina in Kettle Falls. So it's more than just the marina, but the area is known as that.
Mhm.
And so we went there, and it's beautiful, all the beautiful wooded areas by the lake. And it says that you can have 10 people per spot, and you have to have reservations. And so I was just like, oh my gosh, this is perfect. We have 120 people, I just need to reserve 12 spots. And so that's what we did. And it turned out so great that year. It was just so wonderful that we really wanted to continue to have it, and we really liked the whole outdoor immersion and camp out. It actually just brought so much more quality to the gathering too. So yeah, we love it now, and we have it in this section called Locust Grove, which is private, and it's actually the old historic town of Kettle Falls. They had to move the town because they built a dam. I guess it was 100 years ago, something like that, close to that time. And so they had to move the town. So, but where we're having it now, there's still all these historic little artifacts of the town that used to be there. And I thought that it was really awesome, symbolic too, how our group gets together, our community is kind of getting there and establishing our own community where there used to be one there. Because I've even visited since then, and our energy is still there. It's like I can still see everybody walking around that was just there. You too, Edna. I saw you on here. There you are.
There.
Yeah,
Wow. So exciting. Now, have
yeah.
you seen the Sasquatch beings there too in the new location? Have they followed you from Chula?
Yes, I haven't seen them physically, but I've seen many signs of them, and other people said that they have seen them in the woods over there. One gentleman took quite a few pictures this year of different structures and like a giant footprint nearby. And we also have one woman that comes along, Star, and she has this gift of getting incredible photos. And she's actually hosting a similar gathering called the Ohana Spiritual Awakening this September in Willow Creek, California.
Mhm.
And that's where the Patterson Gimlin film was made of the Satch walking, Patty. The whole area, that whole town is very Sasquatchy. It's like they're really promoting it there, big time. But they're there. They're on the river. It's beautiful. So we're gonna attend. But Star, who takes incredible photos, she's
Mhm.
hosting that, so I'm sure we'll end up with some more. But she got a few great like lights and some pictures of things this year. But I personally, like I said, I haven't seen them physically, but I get messages from them, and lots of little trinkets and signs left, things
Mhm.
like that. The glyphs.
Mhm.
Hmm.
I wanted to ask you a question. So
Yes.
I know sometimes that they can appear to us and then they disappear, they can just disappear. And they are interdimensional beings. But sometimes they can also appear in the physical 3D reality, right? So I know that people have actually gotten like some of their hair, like they've left hair behind. So
Hmm.
are you able to explain how they're actually able to be so physical? Because even in that picture of Patty that you had mentioned, right?
Hmm.
That picture, I saw a program on TV, and not just the picture, but the video. And the scientists were actually studying that video, and they said there is absolutely no way that that could have been a costume of any kind, because you can see the actual muscle of
Hmm.
her thigh moving, underneath that fur. And so I'm just, I'm curious about how they can be physical. And is it kind of like spirit people where they can show? Because I see spirits too, and I've seen the Sasquatch beings, but I see them more like you know, like in my consciousness, or like spirit people. And I
Right.
have seen spirits that look like a human form, like just like you and I. Okay.
Hmm.
But is that how the Sasquatch are also appearing to look so physical to people? Are they actually interdimensional, but they can appear to look like a physical being?
Yes, actually, there's many, many different factors to it. There's many different situations, really. So, and there's many different levels of consciousness with the Sasquatch. So, some are not physical, they're not on this plane, but they're able to interact with us consciously. And they're able to still influence things in this world. So, they could make things aport. I've had many things just show up that don't belong there. They're just there. They were brought in from somewhere else. And likewise, things that just disappear that shouldn't, and
Mhm.
things like that. And I've received many confirmations that they have done that, many times. So but many of them are like I said, more, if you want to call them like guardian angels, just to give you an idea of, where they're at. So they're more guiding us through our consciousness. Um, and they don't want a whole lot to do with the actual physical 3D world. There's others that are here, like they were the original carekeepers of the planet Earth, and they love this planet. They absolutely love it. They love everything about it. Nature, that's where they feel like they belong, and so that's where they are. But most of those beings would also have special gifts and abilities that we humans don't. So, but they have to learn them as well, so they're able to change their vibration and change their frequency so that they can be undetected and
Mhm.
things like that. So they have different, if you want to call them technologies, where they can, so they could still be fully physical, like still very much there, but they can change their frequency so that it can't be detected by our frequency.
Right.
And so, but they could still, whatever, they could, take a bite out of an apple and leave that there for you to see without, seeing who's doing that. So that, some of them are capable of that. Like I said, it's training, it takes some learning. And that's, so the, young ones are usually, they're in training for a while, and sometimes you hear of them wreaking havoc, especially the juveniles, just like humans, right? So, um, but they're curious and they're testing their boundaries, and so they'll do things in the physical world that might seem mean spirited or messy or whatever it is, or to scare people just to get their reaction, and things like that. And they're just kind of testing their boundaries, and
Yeah.
they'll outgrow it, and they usually get some kind of reprimand for it too, from what I understand. So, but those kinds of things happen as well. Um, so yeah, so there's the physical and the other, and they can really transition between both. But the ones that are more, like Camus, that the eldest elder, or the ones that may channel messages to you and things like that, a lot of times they're really not very involved with humans on the earth plane.
Mhm.
But that can vary. They all have different roles too. Some of them fly the spaceships, and some of them have very different roles. Some of them are working in the earth, like inside of the earth.
Right.
So there's many different roles that they play, and there's also many different beings that people might mistake for being Sasquatch, and they might be very similar, large hairy beings, but they're not all the same. There's different hybrid species, and then there's many that have been created by humans, for usually not the best purposes and things like that. And so a lot of stories that you hear, where people are fearful of, whatever happened, a lot of times that may not even be the Sasquatch. Other times it may be, because they're so much like us, or we're so much like them, that sometimes one of them might just hold a grudge and be having a bad day, and they have their emotions and their things to work through too. um and so that's why, we're working together more, a little closely. Humans, they really didn't want anything to do with humans for quite a while. They used to, especially when the humans, like especially Native Americans and some of the ancient cultures and everything, they know who they are, and they know their connection to the planet, and they have this deeper understanding of nature and everything, and their connectedness with everything, still connected with the council of star elders, actually, is what they explain quite a bit in the Sasquatch Message to Humanity books. So humanity, for the most part, now is not connected with the star elders, with the understanding that that's where we all come from. We all think we're earthlings, and well, we are, these fleshy suits are, but no, none of us are from here.
Right.
So, it's having that deeper understanding and everything. And that's when they used to be able to communicate more with humans, and they would have gatherings, and they would do trades, and they would uh, teach different shamanic practices. I feel like a lot of different um, things that have been taught and passed down, as far as plant medicines and energy healing, a lot of these different things. I think the Sasquatch taught some tribal peoples directly, and that's been passed down. And you hear little brief things about that, or you might read something brief and something that touches on that, but I haven't yet to come across anything that says that the role that they really played. But a lot of that just isn't documented. But it's a feeling I know I have, and they're working with me in that way. So it's just, for me, it's just kind of like, well, why wouldn't they have worked with the ancestors in that way? How
Right.
would they have known everything that they knew unless they were being taught a lot of this?
I agree. I
You
agree.
know?
And all of the ancient peoples, they in all of the world know about them. They've known
Mhm,
about them throughout all of the eons of time, but they
mhm.
have oral traditions, so they don't document through written word. So I think over time it's been lost, maybe how they've gotten that knowledge. But I think sometimes they have said that they've gotten different understandings from the star elders. So
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely, some of the native cultures too, I mean, they have documented some of that, or at least in some of their pictographs and their petroglyphs and things like that, we can see that they've been visited by star people. They, even draw images of spaceships and things like that. So, yeah, a lot of that, they leave, little clues and things like that. And but there's also so much more, that if you look at all of the tools that's available to us. And I mentioned plants and medicines, with that, we're here on earth, so that's always available. But a lot of the other things to help us to remember, the crystals, also, but other things like astrology, and different aspects like that, to help us make that connection, once again, of how this is all really connected, if you learn to speak the language of those things.
Right, right. Well, thank you so much. This has been fascinating. I just love hearing about your story and your background and how this all unfolded for you, and about your incredible journey. So I am gonna
Yeah.
I am gonna have people ask questions. So I want to go to Edna first. Hold on one second. All right, let me get her in. Okay. Hi, Edna.
Hi,
Hi, Kelly. It's so good to see you again.
you too.
My question is, would you consider, like in the future, having online classes to teach us about your plant medicines, your crystals and organite, so on and so forth? Would you consider doing that? I think it would be great.
I 100% consider that. That's one of those things that I keep getting the nudge to do, and I have not dedicated myself to sitting behind the computer enough to do it. But yes, I'm totally, and I've been feeling that too.
Yeah.
I've been feeling that. Yeah, like I was talking about tools and things, right? Or I don't know if you took Carm's class, but this is a 5 year for me. So this is a good year for me to get things moving like that. And it is slowly, it is moving in that direction. I've been compiling things, but certainly the more people that request it, thank you, that gives me the inspiration and the motivation to get that going. So
Thank
Good. Thank
yeah,
you. And say hi to Christian.
I will. Thank you.
you, Edna. And now I'm gonna. Okay. Now we're gonna bring Nikhil in. Hold on a second, Nikhil. I'm gonna bring you in. Okay.
Okay. Hi,
Hi.
Kelly. How are you?
Wonderful. How about you?
I'm good. I'm good. um, this thing started about 2012, I think, for you.
Mhm.
For me, it started in 1982. They came, and all of a sudden, in fall of 1982, getting my software engineering degree at University of Illinois, Chicago, they came with a tremendous force, and at that instance, I felt like nervous breakdown. And about a year went by, and I kind of was making out what they were telling me or talking to me. But at the same time, after 1 year, they were telling me that they're doing real-time genetic experimentations on me. So that means that they're digging in my brain. I want to use the word digging to solve the humanity's illnesses like Parkinson's and Alzheimer's and dementia and anxiety, depression, and many different variations of this Parkinson's and stuff. And then they have a vast, tremendous amount of knowledge from my brain. Okay.
Mhm.
And they want to give it back. Now they're talking to me after 39 years was heck of experience. I mean, I would not want anybody to go through what I went through the first 39 years. Kelly, they had complete control over my body, every movement, everything. And the way you feel in the brain is like you get a needle shoved in. The head hurts. I never got a break, Christmas or New Year's Eve or whatever. It was continuous, 24/7. One thing they do tell me and have told me many, many years ago, maybe a decade or 2 decades ago, that Sasquatch, Bigfoot, and all that, they exist. But they were put on where you saw the Jai, the alien,
Mhm.
and the Sasquatch. They they exist in spaceships. They're genetically modified to make look like Sasquatch, and when they are put on the Earth, they have to behave like they're walking and talking or whatever, you know. So one thing that connects right away is telepathy. 1983, I figured out that telepathically I was talking to them, and they are powerful. They have tremendous of power. I mean, how many figures? I don't know, a couple $100 trillion or something like that. Um,
Did you want to ask
so
Kelly a
yeah,
question?
the question is the telepathic part. That's how they communicate to me. Even now, they communicate me. How did you interpret your telepathy experience with them? And were they ever hurtful to you? Because for me, like I said, I was hurtful 39 years, right? This is going the 41st year now. How were they helpful, helpful? Were they good or bad? But again, the telepathy started, and did it ever end or it went on after 2012?
Yes. Well, for like the way that I receive the telepathy, that sometimes it comes a little differently. But sometimes I can actually like hear a voice. I've heard their voice where it sounds almost like a Native American chief or something, like this very direct, almost broken speech, or like there might be a couple words missing, but I would hear it or interpret it in English. But it's not that often that I actually hear them as much as it is feelings and visions. I get a lot of dreams, I call them, and sometimes they're at night and they're unconscious dreams, but I have a lot of daydreams and day visions where I see things very clearly and I feel it at the same time. So most of my telepathy comes through that way. And a lot of times it's downloads of massive information. It's like reading 200
Mhm.
books in a day or something, and so I'm trying to disseminate all of this information and kind of put it together. Um, and it doesn't usually seems to take me too long to do it, but with their guidance, so I might question things, or I think they really want to show me the experience, and then the clarity more comes, with things like that. So that's the different ways that I've received telepathy. And I can't say that I have ever felt any kind of harm or any kind of bad coming from the ones that I communicate with. Although I have had experiences where some tried to trick me, and it wasn't really Sasquatch, different beings, but I was able to recognize it. I I can't even really explain to you how, but just being able to tune into that frequency and that vibration, and it felt fake. It felt like a scam, if I can say that. It feels like a scam, and it's like, no, I don't believe this. So even though something's coming to me through my consciousness, or trying to tell me something or convince me of something, um, I guess I've just always been able to use my discernment to be able to tell that. But I could have easily been in a few situations where I felt I was trying to be tricked. There was one time, actually, and this wasn't with there was a Sasquatch that kind of came to my aid, but there was an entity. I thought at the time it was a star person. It looked like a gray alien to me. He was wiry, but that might just be the way that I was, interpreting it. I can't really say for sure, but it was a gray alien being that broke in, more or less. He like came in through my window, and he was telling me things. I was on the telephone with somebody, and this alien being came in trying to, convince me that this person I'm talking to is bad, and it was just a bad energy, and it felt like I was being attacked. And he wasn't invited or welcome. Like I said, it was like he crawled in through the window, kind of thing. And I just, immediately felt myself in defense, and said, you need to leave, get out of here. I was very defensive and very forceful, not mean, but just like, this, you don't belong here. And I did that. And when I did that with such like conviction that you don't belong here, and I pointed at him, and I did that, and lightning shot through my fingers and shot him, or shocked him. I don't think he died. He crawled away. He was just gone. He was like, okay, I'm not messing with her. So but that's one incident where I really felt I dodged a big bullet there. Like, this being came in very quickly and very suddenly, and
Yeah.
very scary, but like I said, he wasn't really trying to trick me either. That one was obvious, but there's beings that can try to play tricks. Usually if it's too good to be true, or if it's coming through media or something like that, I can't even give a prime example, but I'm just able to, I guess, somehow, discern when something doesn't feel right, or it feels like it's not coming from the right source, or not the right energy. So I pray on things a lot, meditate on things a lot, and I don't
Tremendous.
I also try to practice, as much as I can, responding rather than reacting. And so I give myself that time to think things through, and to breathe. And usually just, a few seconds of not doing this reacting is enough for me, personally anyway, to be able to just be like, okay, let me give this some thought or some feeling, really, because I feel it more than thought, because your mind will get you in trouble. So
Well, hopefully I can do that. I point them next time, and they come very often in the daytime. But one quick thing is that you started writing stuff down. I've been writing stuff down for like 2 years, a little bit. The last 4 months has been pretty good. I finished 10 chapters with the ghostwriter, and they're helping me. I have 15 chapters, and it's a pretty interesting experience with them. mostly hurtful, like I said. But yeah, hopefully the book will shed some new stuff, right, Catherine?
Yeah. Well, Nikhil,
Yes.
thank you so much for asking
Yeah.
questions. And
Best blessings on your
Yeah.
journey, and I'm very grateful to hear that you're healing. And
Yeah.
I just want to say too, when you were sharing your story initially, the first thing that came to me is that you had implants,
Mhm. Yeah,
implants,
nothing.
and
This is
so
all genetic,
whatever. Yeah.
Kelly. This is all real-time genetic. Never seen abducted, transplants. I just heard of them. Now going on Zoom with Catherine, I find out people like me, they put some chip in there. Nothing. They're bombarding their physical particle physics, if you want to call it. That's how deep they're going into molecular level. Okay, it takes a lot of work with them, and has taken a lot of work with them to solve this kind of cures. I'm not the only one out there. They're telling me there are other people out there. And that's why I said different forms of Parkinson's. If there's maybe 100 different kinds, they probably found 10 kinds.
Hmm.
But people like me are going to come out in the future. Disclosure is going to start with the people on this earth first, not from them. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
thank you, Nikhil. Thank you
Bless.
so much.
Well,
Now,
thank you.
Thank
I'm
you.
going to
Thank you.
get to Bhakti next. So thank you, Nikhil. Let's see.
Oh, thank you so much for this beautiful presentation.
Go ahead.
I would like to know, what is a plasterite cloud buster?
Okay, so I'll back up and talk about organite first, because that's the more common term. I actually have a piece right here that I made. This was a special. Oh, I got this background on, so it's hard to see. It
Yeah,
keeps.
it looks beautiful.
But so this is a pyramid shaped Sasquatch themed organite that I made. And so what organite and what plasterite is it's taking this organic process and materials, but yeah, more or less Willem Reich discovered this. He coined the term organite. And it's when you take a lot of different metals and encase them into something that's pressurized. This is epoxy resin. And so the metals that are in it, and I put crystals in it, and they get squeezed under pressure. And this device called organite, it then puts out this wonderful positive energy. It also attracts, it absorbs any kind of negative energy in your environment. So that might be thought forms, that could be bacteria, that could be, but it's especially powerful against like EMF and radiation, 5G, and all of these unwanted electrosmog things that we're, being bombarded with. But also so many other things. And so a cloud buster is actually one of these devices that is built with big copper tubes. I suppose it doesn't have to be copper, but that's the most common. It could be any kind of metal. But you put them in the base of an organite device, and these copper tubes. So it's a large piece. I mean, they can actually be huge. You can make them different sizes, but they're placed outside, and they are meant to break up clouds. That's why they're called cloud busters. And so originally, Willem Reich kind of invented the cloud buster because they were trying to create rain or stop rain, or, when there was like a drought in the area. And it's actually very effective, but he was also pretty much ultimately killed over that information. He was put in prison where he died, and they destroyed all of his information. But so that was just a cloud buster, but he invented many other things. He had a big orgone device that you would sit in, a box that people would sit in, and it was healing people of cancers and different diseases that supposed incurable diseases. and they were being healed. And so that was a technology that they just couldn't have around. And so it was kind of suppressed for quite a while, and it's been making a comeback here, especially in the last decade, you know, and people are making them more regularly now. It's not just for, you know, a few people. And I found myself making them accidentally. It was more of an art project, but you know, turned out to, I just absolutely love it, and people want them, so I just kept making more.
Yeah, they look
Excuse me.
the ones
How
I've
how large were the cloud busters that you took to your retreat?
Let's see, there's actually a video of it that I could link here. Somebody took a video of it.
Oh,
But
that
it
would
was in a base about this big. And then that doesn't tell you much, does it? So it was like in a like a glass standing jello mold bowl, if that gives you kind of an idea. And then the pipes, the tubes were probably, some of them were different lengths. So I'd say between 1 and 2 feet were the tubes. And this was just a class, you know, that we were doing. So a lot of times if somebody really wants to take their time and build it with, you know, different ingredients and things like that, they would you know, probably make a larger one in a 5-gallon bucket, and then have, you know, really big tubes and stuff like that. But the one that we made, I guess is fairly small compared to most cloud busters, but still, you know, very effective. It's still a lot bigger than this pyramid that I'm holding here, you know. So yeah, the larger it is, the more effective it is, because the more materials you can put in them. Metal especially is the main ingredient in organite, and it can be any kind of metal.
Wow.
How
Yeah.
long does it take for you to see or for you to feel the difference from the organite?
Oh, immediately. I can feel it while I'm making it, as a matter of fact. But yeah, it's immediate, and it's especially, like I said, the larger the piece, the more effective it is. The you know, the better it's working. Where you're going to actually like feel it in your environment, you know. So like I said, it's a great protector, but it's also just got such wonderful energy. People like to just touch it and sit and meditate with it. I know a lot of people that say that they just take it around with them everywhere, you know, or they do ceremony and things like that. But a lot of times they'll just hold them. I make smaller ones too. This is just the sample I brought with me here on the show, but people love the pyramids for sure. But I also make small little pucks that are also called tower busters, and that they're called tower busters because they're meant to break up like 5G towers, and or the, you know, the EMF coming from that. So yeah, so there's all kinds of different ones, and then of course I make cute little Sasquatch shaped ones and things like that too. So
Oh,
Sounds addicting. Is it
yeah.
addicting once you start making them? Yeah.
Yeah, it is. I have a lot of fun with it. It's, yeah, I love to express my my creativity with it. And so not only that, but they're just wonderful devices to have around. So I mean, this house you know, we have Wi-Fi and all kinds of electronic stuff here, and I don't feel, because I'm pretty sensitive to all of that too. Like you know, I feel funny just going out and going near some of those towers, or when I'm in the city or something, because we're pretty much a very rural area here. But even going into Spokane or into the city or something, I can feel this anxiety and all this energy and all this EMF and everything. I feel too much, you know. So but with these around, I'm maintaining this calm, and I'm not feeling that. So I keep them in my car. I carry little ones in my purse. Yeah, everything.
let us all know when you're doing your class, or let me know and I'll put it out to, my email groups and my groups on Facebook. So
Okay.
I would love to be involved in that too. I would love to learn about it.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, Edna,
Wow.
did you want to ask another question, Edna?
Quick question, Kelly, can you give us suggestions on how we can set up a gifting area for Sasquatch if we live in the suburbs?
Question.
Yes, well, if you can find a special place that you're called to, and really the idea of gifting, you don't really have to leave physical gifts as much as it is the intention, so when you're just saying a loving word and sending a loving thought to a being, whether that be an ancestor or Sasquatch or something, that is a gift. It's being received. So just keep that in mind. It doesn't always have to be physical. I like to go out and leave gifts of crystals or feathers, or often I do put organite out. And it's not really, I do tell the Sasquatch or whoever, like, hey, if you like this gift and you'd like to take it, have at it. But I'm leaving it here for whatever the highest and best good purpose is. So if this crystal is best serving here under this tree to, help it grow or something like that, then that's fine. So, but if you just wanted to set up, your own little space, even just outside of your place, it doesn't have to be away from home. Or you could even set up just an altar inside of your home, with the intention that, I'm setting up this altar, this grid, as a gift, as an honoring kind of ceremony, and that is a gift.
Right.
Because honestly, the Sasquatch don't really have much use for the gifts. Because I used to do that too. I'd leave them things and I'd be like, oh, they didn't take it, and then they'd just be like, what am I going to do with it? And I was like, oh, okay, I guess that's true. But they're very honored at the idea.
Right.
So it's however you feel you want to handle that. The physical gifts, though, aren't as necessary. But certainly if you want to set some intentions into a crystal or something like that, then that would be wonderful. And I do know, like, if you're getting physically visited by one, if you know that you have a Sasquatch or a family of them, or, a clan around that's coming around, certainly you can leave gifts for them. But it didn't sound like it was that kind of, situation. But yeah, if you know they're coming around, a lot of people will leave their, some of their garden goods out, or chocolate apparently is a big one. I guess they really like chocolate, or who doesn't? I like, somebody leaves me chocolate, I'm gonna accept it. So
Thank you.
Love it. Thank you, Edna.
yeah.
And let me just get Elizabeth in here. Okay, Elizabeth.
Hi.
Hi.
So I have two questions. Hopefully they won't take very long for you to answer. But I noticed on the bio that Catherine sent us that it said you're in contact with star elders, Sasquatch people, inner earth beings, ancestors, nature spirits. And inner earth beings, I feel like, was the only one that wasn't covered so far. So can you just expand on a little bit what those are?
Yes, well, it could be any number of beings. So a lot of the Sasquatch, like I said earlier too, is many of them work in the earth. And so that's, included in the inner earth beings, but there's also many of our ancestors that are there doing things to help the planet in different ways. But it's also, I mean, it goes kind of deep into the subject. So it's also energetic. So it is a physical place, but it's also kind of an interdimensional, an alternate reality kind of place. So there's beings that are holding space for the planet, and they are building things on the inner earth. I don't know if you've ever seen the show Fraggle Rock, but there's like really beings similar, and they do work with crystal, and they work with gold, and they do things like that. And so there's little beings, there's big beings. They do a lot for the planet, and they're also kind of record keepers. They're holding on to a lot of this ancient information for when we're ready for it. From my understanding is that, you know, so much of what our ancestors have known about these different subjects that we have forgotten, or that we've been basically taught, you know, a different reality, so that we think things are different from what they really are. A lot of that information had to be hidden, and a lot of it can be found in the inner earth. And also, because like I said, that's a pretty broad subject for me. But my son also, his part of his soul, or when he came here, a large part of that was from the inner earth being. He received a autism diagnosis when he was young, and he used to speak. He can speak fine now, but he used to speak in this other language, star language, but it was very distinct. You know, I've heard lots of star languages, but his was very distinct, lots of tongue rolling and things. And then I've heard other kids, young kids, strangers, that would speak the same language. Like they would hear each other across the grocery store or something, and then start speaking it. And so I learned through a psychic friend also, that it was an inner earth language, because he also got on the phone with him one time, and we're speaking it back and forth. My child, who can't speak, right? He's nonverbal, but no, he was just non-English verbal at the time, you know. So he was speaking this other complete language, and he understood everything, and they're laughing, and you know, I was just like, oh my God, this was blowing my mind. So yeah, so my son is also a large part of my whole journey and everything like that too. So I know that besides him and his in his human form, that I'm working with inner earth beings on many different levels. And I had an experience in the inner earth as well. So that's how I also know it's many different kinds of beings. Some aren't even really beings. It's just energy. You know, they're not even in physical form. But I've had some experiences on the inner earth, and it was beautiful. It was lit up with like bioluminescence, and there were all kinds of rooms. It almost looked like a honeycomb kind of structure, and there were all these different rooms inside of the honeycomb. And I was kind of on a little tour visiting people, and you know, it was in a dream. And so I was visiting these different rooms and peeking in and seeing different people. But each room, even though it looked small, it opened up into something much bigger. But it was fairly short compared to, you know, because I was moving along in the dream. But they showed me my room in this place, and there was a rainbow brook that was running through it, a little rainbow creek. It was lit up, and it was all rainbowy, and it was so beautiful, and I was like fascinated with it. And then I started to follow this brook, and I ended up in a bluff shelter, and it looked like the Ozarks, you know, where I was spending time. So it looked like that area. But I was in this large bluff shelter area, and I could see this old woman sitting there reading to a whole bunch of children sitting all around her. And I felt, you know, really drawn. I was like, oh yeah, I want to go, you know, see what's going on. And I came closer to her, and she was me. It was an older me. And I was just like, whoa, I woke up from the dream at that moment. That's just like,
Wow.
wow, that was pretty incredible. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm kind of jealous of your life. You have a cool life. Yeah. So
Well, it has its moments too, though. Yeah. Well, you can imagine that just because of these experiences, I've had to keep a lot quiet, and there's you know, the majority of people. I'm so blessed to have this community and this circle of wonderful people to share with, you know, but in the real world, you really can't share most of
Right.
that. Yeah.
Right.
Kelly, can you share about your the picture that you found of yourself in the antique store?
Oh yeah, I've got it right here. Let me show you.
You this is going to blow your mind. Watch this.
Is it? Oh, is
Put
it
it-
in the show?
Well, it's starting to.
Put it closer to you. Put it like closer. There you go.
Yeah,
There we
right
go.
there it is. Yeah.
There we go.
Put it up there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Kelly,
What time period was that
So-
taken?
tell the story, Kelly. Tell that
So, okay. So this was in 2020. There's an antique store here in Kettle Falls, actually. It's really close to where we have our camp out. And I love antiques. So I, you know, it's just browsing the store, not intending to buy anything. I've actually been in the store so many times and I never noticed it. But they got different layers. So I'm walking up the stairs and I turn my head and I come face to face with this picture. And I was just like, oh my God, I think my jaw was just hanging open. I was just like, yeah, I lost all my words. I just like, I don't understand how this is possible. That's me. That's me. I know that's me. I know my face. I know what I look like at that age, you know? And so I was just like blown away and I thought I was in the Twilight Zone or something. This woman walks by. Anyway, she must have thought some strange things because I was just like, you know, and, you know, because I thought it was my partner. I wanted to show him, and instead it was a woman that walked by and I couldn't even talk. So, but yeah, anyway, this looks just like me. It was, you know, I didn't want to jump to get it. It was like $100. I was like, you know, whatever. I don't want to spend $100 on a picture. But I went home that night and I just couldn't stop thinking about it. I was like, I have to go back tomorrow and get it. I have to go back and get this. And the next day, actually, my partner Christian got up really early and he went and got it for me before I even got out of bed. Yeah, so it was really sweet. But yeah, it looks just like me. And I even showed my mom and everything, and she's like, I don't remember that picture of you. And I was like, that's because it's not me. And she's like, of course that's you. Don't you think I know my own daughter? I was like, I know this is like really unbelievable, but it's not me. So anyway, I meditated on it and connected with her. I spent a lot of time like looking at her and connecting with her. And I received a message, or just it came through. I can't even really tell you how, but the name Catherine Meyer came through. Catherine Meyer. So I was like, oh, okay. I did all kinds of research trying to. I can't find anything by that name. There's no information to find out there. But I told my neighbor about this, and he goes, oh, the Myers. He's like, that's who actually built this house that you're living in. The Myers built this house. This house is 90 years old. So, and he's like, yeah, this was the Myers house. And I was just like, what? I was like, okay, that's really interesting. And then so like shortly after that, I had a dream where I was walking through the house. See, everything's always a dream for me. Yeah. But where I was walking through the house here, but it was very different. It's very old timey. You know, there wasn't a regular bathroom, I don't think even. So I was in the area. There was a fireplace here that doesn't exist, but I knew it was this house. And anyway, I walked up, I looked in the mirror. I looked in the mirror in a dream. I've done that, I think 4 times in that I can recall. And I'll tell you, every time I look in a mirror in a dream, it's the most profound thing, like really strange things. So, but I looked in the mirror and I was looking back at her. except she was a little bit older. I think in this picture, she's probably like around 10. It looks like a 10-year-old girl. And in my dream, it was her, but she was 17-ish, I would say. And but it looked like me, but I knew it wasn't me. And we were looking at each other, and both of us were kind of a little bit like, whoa, what am I experiencing right now? And that's pretty much where it ended, you know. But so I still don't have like any solid confirmation that this is Catherine Meyer and that she used to live in this house. But I mean, it sure feels pretty synchronistic. And you know, I can't really explain it at all, but I still look at this picture every day, and I'm absolutely fascinated how this person looks exactly like me. Yeah.
That is just incredible.
Yeah.
I think there's more to come with that story. It's
Yeah.
gonna unfold. There's gonna be more to come.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Nikhil, did you
Yeah.
have a question? Thank you, Elizabeth.
Can I ask my second question real quick?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay. So it's just because of, like, it seems like you've kind of like organically grown to be this leader in the community. And so I'm just wondering, have you ever, like, whenever leaders emerge in this kind of a realm, or, you know, in this kind of field, seems like a lot of times there's infiltration from the government or something, you know, like have you ever been visited by Men in Black, or have you had experiences where you feel like the government's trying to investigate you a little bit?
Yes, I've had a lot, especially on the computer, a lot of disruptions and things disappearing, or things not connecting properly, or actually for the longest time I couldn't even do a successful Zoom meeting or interview. Like, it would always, the sound, video, something wouldn't work, internet wouldn't work, you know, there was always some kind of issue. So there's been a lot of that, especially. But there's been other things. I can't say Men in Black that have visited, but I've seen odd things and suspicious things, and felt things trying to infiltrate. I've actually had quite a few people say that they have noticed that, like, at the gatherings, not now, actually, it was at Chewelah Peak. I haven't heard anything since then. But that's also when it was huge, you know. So since COVID, since the gatherings were big at Chewelah, they've really shrunk now in size. And like I said, it's become more quality. It's really more Soul Tribe rather than a bunch of, you know, curiosity seekers. There already was Soul Tribe there too, but there was a lot of people just kind of like, I wonder where this person came from. You know, it's just odd that they would have interest or show up, kind of thing, you know, just where they didn't seem to align. And so I've had people, you know, tell me that, oh, I think that this person is this and that. And I really don't make judgments. I don't, just based on what other people say. So I, you know, didn't give it too much more thought. But I believe that these people think that, and that or you know, believe that, and that there probably has been, you know, some kind of infiltration. But I've experienced things in different ways, but nothing really seriously, heavily, other than my computer crashed one time when it absolutely shouldn't have. Yeah, there's no explanation. My partner is a computer tech, and he was like, no, this doesn't happen. So, you know, so there was that, but other things, no, I think it comes down also to me using my discernment again, because I get little red flags, you know. I could see where things or people or energies or something might try to infiltrate, and I just feel like I'm pretty quick to, nope, just I'm not letting that into my reality. And yeah, so I think that that's a big part of it too, is just the belief that that can happen. If I'm sitting here, you know, just giving thanks for the space that I'm in, and not not giving any fear vibes to anything. That has been successful for me so far. So
Love hearing you say
Yeah.
that. Yes.
Thank you.
That's great.
yes,
Yep, fear will feed them, whether
Yeah.
whether they're energy type beings or ETs or like negative, or some government entity trying to infiltrate. And Kelly, I really believe that you are very, very protected and guarded. So
I do feel that. I do feel that.
you're working.
And I have been on a kind of a little, I wrote about it in one of the books. I can't remember if it's the second or third book, but it was something that Sunbow and I actually experienced together in another dimension. So we were not even close to each other. He was in Canada and I was here in America, and we were typing to each other back and forth in real time, but we were both having this experience where we were kind of tasked with or being asked to help a Sasquatch in captivity. And he was in a Faraday cage in some kind of underground bunker, some man-made thing. And so anyway, we were trying our best to release him to allow this Sasquatch to be free. And they were using all this mind control stuff and everything like that. So it was a successful mission as much as it could have been, but we learned that we couldn't free him. He had to free himself. Yeah, and that's what it boiled down to. But we were there for him and encouraged it and did what we could. But anyway, that really brought into my awareness of how deep things go and how much there really is, things happening. It's just, not going into the fear of it, but all of these realities exist. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. And that's true of all of us. Like we're all responsible for our own, freeing ourselves in a sense. So when you said he needed to free himself, good that you guys were there to support him in any way that you could, but ultimately I guess it was up to him. I wonder if he was ever able to do that up until now. Are you able to communicate with him still? Or?
Well, he was able to find a way to terminate his physical body, and that's how he was able to get free.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. All right.
Yes, but he was, and so that was the goal. Yeah, that was the goal.
All right, I just want to double check. Nikhil, did you have another question or is your hand up from before?
No, I got a question for Kelly
Okay, hold
and
on.
a question for Catherine and Elizabeth as well.
Hold on, let me
So
bring,
Kelly,
hold on a second. Let me bring you in. Sorry. Okay.
so Kelly, you kind of alluded to this question that was in my mind, and you said what I was thinking, one or two words, which was in the 1950s. Well, first question I want to ask you is you were talking about people inside the earth. So the way I looked at it was in the 1950s, it was really released that there were many underground tunnels, very long tunnels being digged. And what they carry, because I'm in IT field, what they carried was big mainframe computers. Plus, they had laboratories and all that stuff in the 1950s, and maybe earlier, Bob Lazar and those kind of people would know about it. Are you referring to people who work in those tunnels, or?
No, it was when I was speaking more about the inner earth beings and what I saw there. So there was two different kind of stories, so I'm not sure which one are you referring to, like when I saw the different beings in the honeycomb rooms and stuff like that?
No, the one after you were talking
Okay.
about.
Yes. So with that, with the Sasquatch in the Faraday cage and things like that, I don't know where it was. I don't know how I got there. I was just there. So I didn't see the journey in getting there, but there were machines, there were computers, there was, it was like a lab. It even had, it had doors that were would open and close. It was a very sophisticated lab, very very sophisticated. Yeah, and like what we would have here, it looked human built to me. It didn't seem like some kind of technology that doesn't exist here. Maybe it's more advanced, but it wasn't, it didn't seem like an alien technology. It seemed very military.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have another question or was that?
I got a lot of questions, but you guys go ahead.
Yeah, we want to be aware of the time though too. So, because we're almost at 2 hours. So if you have one more question, then we.
Well, let me ask one more question to Kelly. One thing I got out of this session, Kelly, was you've seen a lot of different things that quote ufology community would not understand. In the last Zoom session, I talked to somebody and they told me if they're coming to you and they're talking to you telepathically, tell them stop, give me a couple hours of my own time and keep doing that, and 39 years of intense bombardment. It's hard to do that, but whenever I get a chance, I just tell them, I'm not listening to this. I'll get up on my sofa and go to the dining room, or call a friend or something like that. But again, my situation, my story is very unique. I don't know how far it's gonna go, but I finished almost 10 chapters in 4 months. So my friends are telling me you're doing a pretty good job in short amount of time. It takes years to write a book.
Yeah.
And I would say about 7, 8 months for me. So yeah, so
Congratulations, and thank you for sharing it too. It's important to get that out there, to share our
right,
stories, because you'll find there's a lot of people that can relate in the same way, yeah, that can be like, oh my God, this guy went through exactly what I went through, and things like that. So
yeah,
yeah, that's why I'm also feeling that urge to get my information out there, and at least I get to share it in this way until it comes out in binding.
right. I would love to see somebody in the future like me, just 2 or 3 or 4 of us get together
Yeah.
and do something. I don't know.
Well, Nikhil, I'm thinking with you, you've gone through such a challenging situation over the years, many years, and that's not for nothing. I
Yeah.
really see that you're going to be able to use that to serve
Hmm.
others. You are probably going to be a leader in people are going to go and they're going to find you and you're
Yeah.
working out there, and you're
Yeah.
going to be
Right.
able to help them, so it's
Yeah.
not
Yeah, to
nothing.
help a lot of people. I don't know if you've ever heard of Mary Rodwell. She's out of Australia, but if you connect with her, she may be able to just kind of help put things into perspective. She's worked with people for decades, and she has a lot of great information out there, and that's who popped into my mind to refer you to, because I think that you'll find a lot of similar stories. She's worked with people of all kinds. Mary Rodwell, Rodwell.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I'll do that.
Because she knows
yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Kelly.
Yes, you're welcome.
Yeah, she knows a lot of different people. So Nikhil, she could probably help you with
Good.
finding a network, but also, figuring out what's
Right.
going
This is how I learn, right?
Yeah.
You learn something every day or every week, and you can relate to people who can understand what
right.
you're going through. Telepathy word I mentioned to Kelly right away. People outside the ufology, what is that? It's not
Right.
possible. For me, instantly I knew it was possible.
Yeah.
They put it there. Also, that fact that this is telepathy. So
All right. Well, thank you, Nikhil. Thank you so
thank
much.
you.
Thank
Guys.
you.
Thank you.
Right. I just want to see if there were any other questions. People in the chat are saying thank you. Some people are aware of the Organite and other people were not. They just really enjoyed this tonight. And you've answered, I believe all of the questions. So I just want to say thank you so much, Kelly. This has been amazing and really such a wonderful night. I'm like giddy that you're here. I'm so excited, and really it's been so wonderful listening to you. I hope you come back again and share more with us if you want to, and you can always just pop in too, and just as an experiencer, and you're always welcome here, part of our family. So, but it's been wonderful having you here tonight. And I know that everybody really got a lot out of this, and we have a lot more wisdom and understanding too about the Sasquatch beings, because I call them beings, some people call them people, but because of the work that you're doing in the world, and I just appreciate that so much. And thank you so much.
Thank you. Bless. It's
God
been an
bless.
honor, and thank you all.
Thank you. All right, everybody. So have a wonderful, wonderful month, and we will see you next month. We're going to have our safe space sharing group first Tuesday of the month, and then we'll have our speaker event again on the second Tuesday. So enjoy the summer, guys, and I will see you all soon.